What up, everybody? From Fear and Loathing in Germantown, this is Joe. This video is going to be a little different than my usual ones. It's unedited. It's just I wanted to speak from the heart. If it's a little long-winded, I'm sorry, but it's going to be the first in the series of Rant videos. This one is about the DCEU and some really disturbing things that I just learned about that everybody's starting to learn about right now. For those who don't know, the Justice League movie was directed by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder directed Man of Steel. He then directed Batman vs. Superman, and he started to direct Justice League. It was announced somewhere during the post-production that some things need to be finished, and Zack Snyder had to step away from the project because earlier in the year his daughter had committed suicide. So Warner Brothers released a statement saying that he was stepping down and that they were bringing in a friend of his, Joss Whedon, to finish the film. And the film itself, no matter how many people saw it or liked it, it is a mess. Whether you enjoyed the film, which I did, I am one of the people who enjoyed Justice League, but it is a mess of a film. Unfinished CGI, plot points that don't make any sense, missing scenes that were advertised in trailers and commercials and interviews. Everyone was confused, people didn't know why, but everyone just chalked it up to, hey, there was a tragedy, we needed to hurry up and make a movie. Kudos to Warner Brothers for, giving Zack Snyder some time off so that he can deal with his family issues. It's not what happened at all. What it's starting to come out is that Warner Brothers hired Zack Snyder to do Man of Steel. Man of Steel was successful. They wanted him to do the sequel. So he started to do Batman vs. Superman. And halfway into Batman vs. Superman, they started production on Justice League. So by the time Batman vs. Superman was rushed out, and they had all those problems with cutscenes and the mess of a movie that was, they saw that critics started to not like the movie, so they panicked and they had to make some last-minute changes while doing Justice League. And they fired Zack Snyder. And they used the excuse of his daughter's passing to justify it and to hide the fact that they fired him while working on the film. Now, I have my gripes about Batman vs. Superman. I have my nitpicks and criticisms about, Zack Snyder as a director and directing DCEU movies. I do feel like Zack Snyder, despite what most people say, is a competent visual director. This man has captured scenes that you can tell this man has looked up to comic books his entire life, and the pantheon of heroes that he's trying to put on screen, and a story that he is trying to tell. Everyone panicked with different ways that he took the approach of doing Batman and Superman and all these different characters, but it was his vision. And I always felt like, no, I didn't agree with his vision. No, these were not the way that I wanted to see these characters portrayed on the big screen, at this time. But it was a mission of his. It was an idea that he had that he wanted to flush out. And I felt like no matter what, I was going to respect the man's vision. Story-wise, all the movies were a mess, and this is why. It's because they did not trust the man's vision enough, and they didn't let him see it through. There was far too much meddling with, the producers of this, the production company itself, or Warner Brothers, meddling in and reworking his vision to the point that it looks like a jumbled mess, and we all blame Zack Snyder. And it's not just a conspiracy theory that Warner Brothers fired him. You look at any of the press tour or any of the information or anything after Justice League was released, there's no interviews with Zack Snyder talking about it or promoting it. He's not on any press junkets. Even if he did have to deal with something, you would think that somebody would talk to Zack Snyder to see how he felt about the film. Even Joss Whedon was doing interviews, and a lot of the things he said seemed sarcastic about the film and the experience. And I'm starting to think that maybe this was the reason. This might not be a big deal to some people, and I mean, yeah, sure, why not? But I don't want to support another DCEU film until it's changed in some way. I'm going to, at this point, boycott the DCEU, and it's terrible because obviously I am someone who did enjoy Wonder Woman. I felt like it's not the best superhero movie of all time, but I felt like it was one of my most favorite superhero movies, and in recent years. And I feel like it's because they captured the hero essence of. I'm sorry, I'm so upset by it. I respect filmmakers. I respect storytellers. I respect people who are trying to display something, and especially when it's something new and different and something that people may not agree with, but you can tell that they are passionate about it. Zack Snyder was passionate about making these films. He was passionate about telling the story that he wanted to tell, and Man of Steel was proof of that. And yeah, no, this wasn't the Superman we were all used to, but this was a Zack Snyder universe. I mean, comic books do it all the time. There are different interpretations of every superhero you love. This movie was just another interpretation of Superman and the DC characters we love. And Warner Brothers panicked and fired this man because of critics. Had they left some of his movies alone in the first place, there wouldn't be this issue. Yeah, some people critically, bombed these movies, but they still made the money they were supposed to make. And I feel like if you would have let the man tell his story, you probably would have made more money. I feel like this is terrible, and I'm not putting any more money into. I feel disgusted that I even bought or put money or went to go see Justice League. It makes me furious, actually. I'm not supporting any more DCEU movies if you connected to Justice League or anything like that. It's a shame. I was looking forward to Wonder Woman 2. I was looking forward to Aquaman. But I seriously think we need to boycott the rest of these films. I think, they have a new head of films, with DC films. They have a new head. Maybe if they put out some type of statement, saying, apologizing for it or making up for it, something. But until then, I'm not putting any more money into Warner Brothers DC movies, as much as I do enjoy them. And it's only one more thing to support the Marvel bias that everyone thinks that everyone has, but it's cleared. That's foul. It's a foul thing to do. And shame on DC, shame on Warner Brothers for doing this to this man. I feel sorry for him to have to go through a tragedy. I lost a child. To lose your child, to work on a film, and to have a company that's supposed to be supporting you say that that's the reason why you got. That's terrible. That is a extremely shitty thing to do. Pardon my language, but it's a terrible thing to do, and I don't think any of us should support any more DCEU films until something has changed.